Welcome to Literacy Talks, the podcast for literacy leaders and champions everywhere, brought to you by Reading Horizons. Literacy Talks is the place to discover new ideas, trends, insights, and practical strategies for helping all learners reach reading proficiency. Our hosts are Stacy Hurst, a professor at Southern Utah University and Chief Academic Advisor for Reading Horizons; Donell Pons, a recognized expert and advocate in literacy, dyslexia, and special education; and Lindsay Kemeny, an elementary classroom teacher, author, and speaker. Now, let's talk literacy.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Literacy Talks. I'm Stacy Hurst, and I'm joined by Lindsay Kemeny and Donell Pons, as I am most every week, right? We're almost always all here. That's a lot of alls. One reason I'm probably stumbling on my words is because it's the end of the school year. For me, end of my semester. And if you're an educator or a teacher, you know what that means. You may be a little tired, a little distracted. And if you're like me, I'm already thinking about next year and, trying to wrap up this year. So we thought we'd carry that into our conversation a little bit today, and kind of reflect on our last few podcast episodes. Maybe we could call it a season, where we were focusing on change makers, but then really dive in and focus on, just reflect, I should say, on our year of teaching and maybe look ahead to the summer too. And I do want to acknowledge, Donell, you don't get the summer off from your teaching.
Nope. No.
And I think that's good. Your students can't afford for you to take a whole summer off.
Yeah, no.
So some of this conversation will be a lot on the reflecting, and you just get to carry on. Carry on. Do the good thing. Okay, so let's first of all talk about our air quotes season. We've talked to a lot of change makers this season. And one question that came to mind is, what do you think they all had in common that made them effective? Because they all had accomplished some pretty cool things.
I think they were all dedicated. So the word that came to mind was just dedication. I mean, you can't just say it. You've got to follow through with your actions. And I feel like they were all really action oriented and to make sure to have a plan and carry that plan all the way through.
Yeah. Donell, what about you? What do you think they had in common?
Yeah, I'm thinking a similar thing. And in addition, it seems like they were able to find like-minded people, even if it was within the office, within the community, within the school, because it really does take more than one individual. And oftentimes they credited their own involvement to someone else who got them involved, someone else who had said, hey, look, have you looked at literacy? Do you understand how important it is? And then they picked up the charge, and with their position, they elevated that relationship that someone had had with them, and they elevated that conversation and relationship and took it to the next level. So that also I found interesting.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. And I think what I would say is that similar to what you both have said, because anytime you're trying to make a change, it's not going to be easy, I imagine, especially if it's a very meaningful change. And so they did persevere through that. I think sometimes it's easy to just say, you know what, there's just too much opposition. I'll focus on something else. But it seems like they all just rallied when they needed to. Really important. There are many moments, I feel like, from our conversations that I have found myself referencing in my own work or conversations since we recorded it. So I think probably every episode, but our series of episodes on assessment, really relevant to what I'm doing. And I found myself talking to my students about those episodes. And then I think a lot of district people I've talked to in the meantime, and I always reference them to our episodes that had people in the district. I don't know, Donell, have you made reference to our episodes to people that you've rubbed elbows with?
Yeah, and I was just thinking there have been a few folks. I think that Julie Van Dyke and syntax, it's still front of mind, and I think I've talked a lot about her software, Cascade Reading, and the website and free resources. But that one is I'm still all the time surprised at how often that is a key piece when I'm instructing, when I'm working with students. So I think about that one a lot. I also have one in my head that has stuck there, and it was Kareem Weaver. Among the many great things that Kareem Weaver does and says, he brought up the relationship that he had with the late Ennis Cosby, Bill Cosby's son, who unfortunately was killed in a very tragic way. But that his experience in college, here's this young man who, by all intents and purposes, has loads of support and gets all the way to college, very bright young man, struggling hardcore, and goes and receives, oh, hey, look, it's dyslexia, receives support and comes back into the college system. And I'm thinking, wow, even at that level where you have that much, resource support behind you, that tells you how much we got to do with dyslexia. Anyway, just that one has stuck into my head because it really made me think about a lot of things to do with dyslexia. And then just conversations I was able to have this past year with folks who have dyslexia, my own son included, reminding me of how very important this work is and unfortunately how difficult it is to make change. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I also found myself thinking about our episode on all the things that the library in Montana, right in this moment, her name, I'm drawing a blank. Idaho, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, Idaho.
Yeah.
Sun Valley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've been thinking about that because in my little community, there's been online at least, probably face to face, but I'm unfortunately not attending school board meetings, but there's just been a lot of dissent and just bickering and pointing fingers. And I just think how awesome it would be if we could do what that community did, pull together and provide some really awesome resources for our educators and for the kids in the community. And
families.
Yeah. And families. Yeah. Not leaving families out of the equation for sure. But anyway, So lots of episodes to reference, I think. We'll continue to do that. Okay, let's switch our focus ever so slightly on our teaching. And like I mentioned, we're ending our semester. We just had graduation on Friday. We're recording this on Monday after, and I am grading finals, but I make a list every time of what I want to change. But as we reflect on the last year of our teaching, a question I want to know is, what is one word that captures your year? And then just tell me why. Share with our listeners the story behind that word. Lindsay, do you have a word?
I was thinking about this, and the word that came to mind, which I'm going to use both as a verb and a noun, is advocate. I had to really advocate for several of my students this year, where both with academic needs, of course, we're always advocating for that, right? But also just the other tremendous amount of needs that our students have. I really had to advocate to different people. It might have been school leaders. It might have been parents. I feel like I sent so many of these pleading emails this year to get students' needs met. And I'm just really frustrated. I'm just going to try not to get emotional here because there's some things that happened even today. But yeah, it's just so teachers have to deal with so much beyond academics. Academics alone is a lot, but we have to deal with so much, and so do our students, and it's just not fair. And I'm frustrated today, and I just can't believe I'm sickened at times with the things that our kids have to go through and that they're exposed to. And it just makes our job really hard. So I've just really been thinking about that, because I feel like this year, especially, there were just a lot of different things that were going on in my students' lives. And I just want to be careful how I talk about it, because I want to protect them. But, and then also, we have at our school a family advocate. And so I really got to know our family advocate this year. so she was amazing because she just did so much. We would work together, figure out how can we help the student, how can we support the family at home. And so there was just so much. I feel like I'm talking to her almost daily. We're trying to do check-ins with the family, with the students, just different things where she can go over there and teach them how to do certain things to help know how to take care of their child. And anyway, just lots of different things. But I've been so grateful for her. We haven't always had that resource. And she's not like full-time at my school, but it's been so great to have someone, official advocate, to help me advocate, because we need support, and our students need support. So anyway, it also, like, I just think sometimes it's really easy to criticize teachers. I think just, I just think it's good to remember that we're dealing with a lot of different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. When you think about the deficits as early as kindergarten, our students come to us with, depending on their first 5 years of life, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a sobering start, but it's a good word. It's important. Yeah. It's powerful.
It's a reality.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it is very real.
And I guess the good on the bright side is, like, I've learned about different resources, community resources, maybe different ideas and things to help with different situations that might be happening at home, so it's just hopefully going to help me be a better teacher, when I get other students dealing with same issues. But there's always something to learn.
And that you have a family advocate, that you have that role at your school is very cool. We do have school psychologists that I think could function in the same way, but I've never heard that specific title in a school. That's cool.
I mean, just the level, like, just everything, like, she's been able to do and go, I don't know where her budget comes in, but she's been able to purchase things and go take them to the home, things that the child needs at home, and just different, I've been amazed at everything she can do for the child. Wow. So it's been
and the
family. Yeah.
And I know that you're a great advocate because you had to do that for your own son too, in different ways, more academically. Yeah. But then I also think about how you are empowering that student or students through your instruction too, because you cannot compensate for what's happening in their home. But I have every confidence you're still teaching that student how to read, which is going to impact them.
And because no matter what is going on in, like, different students' lives, we can't just say, okay, I feel so bad, I'm just going to give them a free pass at school, because that's just doing more damage. So the best thing for all our students is that they still learn and are proficient, readers and writers. And I'm really passionate about that too, because that is what I can control when they're at school, and it builds their confidence when they're successful. So if you're teaching them, they'll be successful. That builds their confidence, that builds their self-esteem, and that's really going to help them moving forward.
Yeah. And if they can read, they can access resources that they couldn't otherwise as they go through life.
Yeah.
And Donell, I think you know that better than anybody. What would your word be?
Yeah, so it's very similar to yours, Lindsay. I think this has been a rough year for me. And maybe it's because I'm coming full circle of having been in this space for a long time. I mean, I think I joke about how old I am, and I look like the grandmother of the space, but and I feel that way many times because I've seen a lot of change. Some really good, and some I'm amazed hasn't changed more. And some I'm like, are we still having these same conversations? I can't believe it. But I think what I've come to is I got a kind of a wake-up call about remembering, and it's much what you've been saying, Lindsay, remembering that these are human beings. I think that has been a theme this year to me, is because you can get so caught up in people telling you, oh, you can't say this and you can't say that, and you better watch this. And, oh, have you met this group? And you need to make sure you placate these guys, and you need to make sure you're playing fair over here, and make sure everybody has an understanding over here. And, oh, you can't say that out loud. Maybe we might think it. And I just had to take a minute and say, these are people's lives. When we don't help, when this doesn't change, when we don't say the stuff that's hard out loud, then it really impacts people's lives. And so that's where I'm sitting right now today. We went through a very hard legislative session here, as I know many other states did too. And it was a good wake-up call to remember, you know what, at the end of the day, it's about people, and it's about making sure that they receive the right, as Kareem Weaver very much put it, a civil right, the right to receive correct and appropriate instruction to become readers, and whatever that takes. And Lindsay, you've talked about sometimes it's a huge lift. Sometimes that's a big lift. Sometimes it takes more than just a few things on the table. And so what are we going to do to provide those things? And that it doesn't need to look all the same. They don't need to have all the same desires or needs, but we have the capacity and ability. There's nothing greater we can do, and we do have the ability. Kareem has mentioned it many times before. If this country doesn't have the capacity, what country does, to be able to do this, to be able to change reading outcomes for students? So, yeah, you got me thinking, Lindsay, when you were talking.
Yeah, and there's a lot there that resonated with me too, especially with the legislative session we just endured, is a word I'll use, because it does impact my role in higher ed. I feel very keenly it impacts that, but it impacts every educator no matter what state you're in.
Yeah.
And the lives of your students. So it's important. And I would have to say, looking back on my year, I'm actually happy to hear you guys say the words you are, because I felt like this was kind of a rough year for me. It was very busy, hectic, and sometimes hard to get the perspective. But I think I guess it's a phrase, or if you want to hyphenate it, we can say it's a word, but full circle would probably be the word, because I've seen in the field some of my former students teaching and nailing it. They're doing such a good job. And I know we always learn and grow, but just seeing them in their classrooms has made me really in awe of what they do and how far they've come. But I have to say, I've also seen more this last year, these last 2 semesters, than ever before, that our pre-service teachers are not coming to us in any way prepared to teach writing. Their writing isn't even reflective of what you would expect. And the number of phrases that I said to my first graders that I'm saying to my college students, to be fair, these are sometimes freshmen, like you need to start a sentence with a capital letter and the pronoun I is capitalized. I can see the need for that. We do. I know I've said this a million times on our podcast. I have a new class starting in the fall, luckily, that will focus on writing, but I need to teach them writing along with teaching them how to teach it, which is sometimes overwhelming. So I was thinking words like full circle, overwhelming. There's a lot, and maybe it's just too soon to reflect without that level of emotion, but it sounds like we've all had a year.
Stacy, on the bright side, at least that means they're not using AI, right? To write their answers.
True, but I may or may not have forced that. So I gave a final face-to-face paper pencil this year.
Okay, I was just going to ask, because I'm like, doesn't Word correct that for you? Okay, so it's paper pencil, I see.
Yeah, and I will tell you, this is, again, many students in this particular class are freshmen or starting, this is one of the first classes they take in the education program. They all come away saying, wow, there's so much more that goes into teaching reading than I ever thought. So I'm lucky that they have that awareness. But when I told them about the final, and I was gauging the level of anxiety in the room, and I said there will be 50 multiple choice questions that are not just vocabulary terms, they're application. Didn't get much of a response. And then I said, and then there will be one essay question, and not even much of a response then until I said, this is paper pencil. And then it just went, the anxiety went through the roof. And questions started coming out. Are you going to grade on spelling? That was the number one.
That's so telling.
What about handwriting? And it was palatable. It was just that immediately. And then in truth, it wasn't a full blown essay. It was more of a long answer or short answer. But that's what they were concerned about.
Wow.
So they know they don't know.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah. And oftentimes, Lindsay, the times that I am making comments on capitalize the pronoun I, every sentence starts with a capital letter, it is in a digital document too. So, yeah.
Okay. So I got to tell you something that one of my students recently said to me, and I have to do a shout out to this student. He's graduating from high school and he's a rock star and he's heading off to a college experience. We've been together for many years, but he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. But he made a comment that was really interesting just recently. Senior year, last project out of their English class. And he has been forced because the school has, this particular district has a policy where every student has to take an honors English class. So no matter what your background is, you have to be in honors English. So he's been in this English class that has caused a great deal of anxiety. They're doing Frankenstein. And of course, what did he do? He made sure he brought it with him to tutoring. We've been on it, working on it. He's reading the original. It's been a really good experience between the two of us. Well, I said, how's it going? I just recently, last project coming up for it. How's it going? He says, you know what? I'm the only kid in my class that's read it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And I said, what?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, I'm the only one in the class who's actually reading the book. And I'm the only one who's actually doing the assignments. So he said, do you know what I want to say to the class? I said, I'll bet you want to say a lot of stuff. And he said, one thing I want to say is, do you have any idea how hard it is for me to do this? And I'm doing it. What's your excuse?
And if it's easier for you, why aren't you doing it? Right? That's his
It's your excuse.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
He's working
and
really
that does
hard.
not surprise me either. Full circle. I know I've shared before, beginning of the semester, that 5 books essay I require. A lot of kids use books from their childhood. It doesn't surprise me that he's the only one reading that book.
Well, and sometimes it's not even all the way assigned, you guys. Like my son, was it this year? He's in 10th grade this year, or it might have been, no, it was he was in 9th grade last year. And they were reading a book, I think it was Lord of the Flies. And he didn't, they weren't required to read every single chapter. So I was having him read, and then he was like, oh, I don't have to read that chapter. We can skip that and just go to this other chapter. And I'm like, what? No, you're going to read it. And he was so mad at me. My teacher said we didn't have to. Like, look, he's like showing me the assignments. You don't have to read the whole thing. They're just reading certain chapters. And I made him read it anyway. But I'm like, what? Why aren't we reading the entire book? Like, we don't need just to do excerpts,
Because it would take too long.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really strange to me.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that play out in a lot of ways. Okay, well,
on that note,
look at us talk about literacy and maybe get a little bit carried away, but it's all relevant stuff. As you reflect on the year, is there a student moment this year that you keep coming back to? And what happened?
I have one at parent-teacher conferences in the spring. I'd always ask my students, like, what's your favorite part of the day? What do you like about school? What's your favorite thing? And I had a student who said, I've never had a student say this before, spelling. And I was like, and He didn't even say recess first. And then I'd have to say, well, what's something else? No, it was spelling. And what he means by spelling is he means like that dictation part of our phonics lesson, which is spelling, because they are just spelling the words and I'm walking around and then I choose someone to go write it up on the board. And that has just really got me thinking, because I really have noticed, he's always well behaved, but he seems particularly on top of it during that dictation. And he sits up straight and and I just had no idea like that he loved that so much. And I just thought that was so cool. And it's kind of a nice little lesson to me that you never know, like, even if there's which I do like that part of the day, but even if there's a part of your day that maybe as a teacher you dread a little bit, or you're like, this is not really my favorite, or this, like, that might be one of your students' favorite parts of the day. We talked about that too with certain units where I'm like, oh my gosh, this one unit is coming up. It's it's not my thing. But some students are going to be like, oh, they can't wait to hear more about that history lesson or whatever it is. And so I don't know. It's just something I keep thinking about, because I just thought that was so surprising, and you never know. And I don't know. I just thought that was really cool.
I love that. I love that. I remember when we started teaching at my elementary school, when we actually clear back in the day started teaching phonics. And as you know, we taught Reading Horizons, and that dictation piece is a big part of it. In the faculty room, Lindsay, we were all going, our students say that phonics is their favorite time of the day. And we were all mystified by it. That's so weird. So I love that, though. That is so fun to hear.
Kids love
Good job.
Consistency, I think, and structure. And we're always worried that they're going to be bored,
Structured
but they
literacy.
thrive with it. They thrive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to know that they can feel confident and competent in doing it, right?
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
What about you, Donell?
I'm going to say it's probably related to the other student story that I shared. I have another student who is an older adult. He is in his 60s. I don't think you'd mind me sharing that. No one's going to know who he is anyway. But it was interesting because I had a rare opportunity to have someone who knows him chatting, having a social conversation in a social setting, and he happened to come up in the conversation. And this individual who has known him for most of their life said, and I thought this was, and I later told him, I had to tell him, because later I'm like, that would be a really interesting thing for him to know about himself, that someone said unsolicited about him, because it's very positive. And this individual said, what's really interesting is that so-and-so, I was doing some work with him, and it involved numbers, spreadsheets, work, and it was like a whole different person. He was completely engaged, on top of it. He was reading me from columns. He was reading things to me. And I know that he has struggled with reading. Just mentions this because they have a little bit of background. I couldn't get over the confidence. He's like a different person.
That's cool.
And I took that back to him. And he sat there for a minute. And he didn't quite know what to do with the information. I could tell he was really taking it in. And then he said, Lindsay, you started it with your almost, I'm going to cry. But then he said, wow, thank you for telling me that. Because it's so much work. And again, this is that human piece that I think is going to be a thread through this conversation, is these are human beings that we're talking about. When we're talking literacy, we're talking human beings, and the most profound experiences they're going to have in their lives are related to reading. We just can't get away from it, folks. So I want to say that again, the most profound experiences we have in life are related to reading. Think about it. Everything through your grade school experiences that form who you are as a person, how you feel and think about yourself, are usually framed around reading and writing, those basic literacy skills. So it is a human experience. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
I say all the time, like teaching these students to read and write is the greatest gift we can give them. It really is. It changes lives. And that's what we're doing. And that's what, our listeners are doing, whether you are on the front lines or not, because you might be in a supportive role, but you are supporting the people and the teachers who are doing, on the front lines of the work. But you guys, it's such powerful work.
Yeah. And I tell my students this all the time when we learn about orthographic mapping, but it's a gift that they can't take back. It is a gift that will impact them forever. You can teach them science or social studies. They'll forget capitals. They'll forget geographical lines and boundaries, but they cannot forget how to read, barring certain brain injuries, right? Once that has happened, it is a lifelong gift. And it's the most selfless thing we can do. And as you guys have pointed out, we've been talking about in this episode, it's sometimes very hard. I have a moment, actually a couple, that I'll just probably share one, though, just in keeping with your moments that you've shared. I have a student, I had her in my beginning class a couple of years ago. And as we learned about dyslexia, she was one of the students that came up to me and said, I have that. I am sure I have that. That's me. And I had noticed previously, earlier in the semester, when we were learning about phonemic awareness and we were doing simple, my pre-service teachers were doing simple exercises. I did notice she struggled with blending and segmentation. I noted that. And so I wasn't surprised when she came up to me to say that. We connected her with some resources, and then she took a year or two off of school to do some service out of the country. And then she's back in the class where we work with first graders, and I have them create a reader profile that they are working on throughout the semester. And it's really just focused on the one student they're tutoring, but it's pretty detailed and in-depth. And when I got to grading her midterm, and in the way it works in Canvas, you don't know who the student is. You set it up so you're just grading the assignment. And as I was reading through this assignment, I was like, I'm going to ask this student if I can use this as an exemplar going forward. I mean, she had the best analysis I have ever seen of a student's reading, and just very detailed and on point. And dang it, we should not cry. You guys started it. When I saw whose name it was her. And she's been doing a lot of work to be able to manage that. And I know she puts in 2 or 3 times or 4 times the amount of work that other students in the same class do, like you're pointing out, Donell. Yep. But she's going to be the best teacher because of it. So that moment stuck with me, because I just remember looking at the screen and going, wow, that's so cool. Yeah. Anyway, okay. It's so fun to be in charge of an episode when you guys are making me cry. So thank you for starting that. Okay, some other questions that we could ask, maybe a little less emotional.
Teaching literacy shouldn't mean juggling multiple programs. Ascend Mastery by Reading Horizons brings it all together. A core comprehensive pre-K through 5 literacy curriculum that connects word recognition, language comprehension, oral language, and writing, built on decades of proven foundational expertise. Ascend Mastery simplifies instruction and helps every student build lasting literacy gains. Ascend Mastery will be available for district and school implementation beginning with the 2026 school year. Visit readinghorizons.com/ascend to learn more and sign up for updates.
Was there something about your teaching this year, that a lesson, a unit, or something that, I don't know if I want to go right to flopped, but didn't quite go how you expected? And what did that look like? I feel like that happens to me frequently, and I'm always revising what I'm doing.
I was just going to say, I think there's always lessons that don't go as well as you've hoped. So it's kind of like hard to think of just one particular one, because I'm like, there's always ones where you're like, oh my gosh. Or you can see, I'm losing the kids. I got to pick up my pacing. Or there's so many times when we do these like read alouds with our program that I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to rewrite this read aloud, and I wish I had more time to do that. But I think, none of us are perfect. There's always going to be things that don't go very well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Donell, does that happen in your tutoring too?
Yes, it does. And I think also the other piece that I keep coming back to is always filing things away mentally or something but always staying open to and reading. And I make sure I check to see if there's been anything that's come up on a certain subject in reading, because you don't know everything. And there is new information that's being shared. And sometimes when I'm sitting with a student, I'll have an aha moment and go, that's what I was reading about. Oh, and you can try something. So that's also what I was going to encourage, is those happen all the time. I call them light bulb moments, where maybe something you filed away from a research study or a headline that caught your eye, and you're thinking, that's really interesting. And then you're in a moment with a student where you're thinking, that's what we're talking about.
That's
you can pull it out and try it. So that's always got to be, I think, in your practice. As Lindsay, you said, that you have to have ultimate flexibility, I think, in this work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good phrase, ultimate flexibility.
Yeah.
That is definitely important. Okay, well, let's see, what else could we discuss based on this year? And maybe just because we've just gone through it, where did you feel the gap between basically research and practice in your own teaching practice? I know for me, I'll just be like, I'll start while you're thinking of it. But for me, it really is the amount of time that it takes to know how to teach someone, let alone hundreds of students, how to read. And we have, at our university, starting next fall, we'll have 12 credits total. And I think about all the years that it's taken me to get to know what I know. And there's so much I still need to know. And I just think there's such a gap in the way that we address that in our education system. And I can do the best job I can do. My students can do the best jobs they can do, but we don't have time to get to everything they need to know.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Stacy, because before you said that, because you sent us these questions yesterday. And what I wrote down was time, because I do think that is just the biggest, that's our worst enemy. There's never enough time. And you get these research studies, you read these research studies on different things. And it's like, okay, here's what we did. This is, exactly, this is how long it took. And even if it's like, well, this little particular activity took 20 minutes or something. And so, they might be saying it's only 20 minutes. You're like, I don't have 20 minutes for that, to work on that one specific thing, so, and you can find those kind of studies on so many of the different things that we have to teach. So it's like, no, so how do I make the best use of my time? Because I can't do all of that. I can't do that whole routine. I can't do that. What should I replace with that? And those are all the tiny little part of the millions of decisions, those tiny little decisions that we're making every day, and maybe that's not a tiny decision, but it's just one of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's never enough time to do it all.
Yeah, that's resonating with me, obviously. Donell, what about you?
Yeah, I'm always thinking about how to get the students to be doing more of the thing, and how to get the students to be doing more of the thing that is most relevant. So in other words, how to move them from 1 syllable, 2 syllable, 3 syllable to be more efficient, more fluent. How to get them over the hurdles that come up, because you don't get answers to those nitty gritties. There's general information that you have, but each student is unique. That they just are. Each student has little things that are unique, and some have more things that are unique. And I think those are the things that I'm always noodling constantly.
Yeah. And it takes time to recognize those unique things from your students. And especially if you're a classroom teacher, because you're not working one-on-one with them all the time. And so it takes time for some of those things to surface, depending on the setting too. Yeah. I know I called Donell last week because I am tutoring, and my 3rd grade kiddo that I'm tutoring is the best memorizer of anybody I've ever met. I will not be surprised if he goes into acting and does a really good job. But when it comes to reading individual words in isolation, not so much, right? So, and I've been working with him almost a year now, and I kind of knew this, But it's also a balance because I was trying to give him time doing the thing. He had lots of time doing the thing, lots of repeated reading, but he was memorizing it. And now I have to shift ever so slightly and go back to making sure we're doing that. And I go back to the simple view of reading. That word recognition piece was in isolation, and he's still lacking that. So we need to work in that area. But that takes time, right? And this is me working at least an hour a week with him. I wish it were more, but yeah.
And that was even one-on-one. So imagine him and students like him in the classroom. It really takes, you've got to be so in tune and really, to catch those kids because they're going to rely on, they have these great, memories for that kind of thing. And so just another, they can slip through the cracks so easily.
Yeah. And his scores were looking great. As you can imagine, people were like, oh, he's making so much progress. And there were other authentic things too that I know we did turn a corner for sure. Like his mom said, he's actually commenting on print in our environment now. Like we were at the swimming pool the other day and he said, why can't kids go in this area or whatever? And she was like, for the first time ever, I realized he was reading. Yeah. But it's never done, right? Now I have to shift my instruction a little bit. And so live and learn. Maybe next year when we're having this conversation, I can say that I did that successfully and he's got that down.
Well, it's breaking the habit too, which is a little hard.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So here's another question I've been thinking of too, probably on the event of our most recent legislative session. And I think my biggest takeaway was the people who are making these decisions are the least informed about what needs to happen for reading. That's not anything derogatory. That's a fact, right? They're not in education. They're not teaching people how to read. So my next question is kind of related to that. So what did this last year confirm to you about what kids actually need to learn how to read versus what people assume they need to learn how to read? I think one example, because I led with legislation, but I still wonder about those third grade retention laws because I know what a student needs to happen before third grade. And I don't know if retention's the answer, but that's one example in my head.
Yeah, there's like really nothing specific about this year that has made like confirmed to me, I don't know. I could say students still need their whole group and their small group, I guess. I feel like I'm having a lot of success there. My scores are better this year, I think, than any year so far. I mean my students like reading screening scores, but to me, no matter what, some students need, like, no matter how good my whole group instruction is, some students need a lot more scaffolding. And that's where, when small group, I can really get to know my students individually as readers. So I just think they're both really important and I take them both seriously.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Stacy, you led with or had put in their legislation, and oftentimes people that are involved with legislation know the least, and that's just because they aren't reading specialists. They have many things that their backgrounds are very different. They didn't come into this because they're reading experts, but they're being asked to weigh in on this stuff. That being said, I would say, and it's just something I think we ought to get in the habit of doing, take a look at your state reading legislation. So Google it up and find out, hey, what's the latest in my state reading legislation? And read through some of that to see what you think, because I think you'll be surprised at how much information is in there you were completely unaware of. And it gets pretty detailed oftentimes. It's fairly detailed in some of the legislation. And take a look at that and see what you think. And ask yourself, is this aligned to what I know? Given my background in the science of reading and what I'm learning, or isn't it? What pieces are or are not? But I think that's something that this year I've really really had to think a lot about. And I had an opportunity to travel around a little bit during the legislative session to some different states, and they were having conversations. And this isn't something that is unique to one location. Lots of people don't know. And lots of people involved in education have no idea what's happening in their own state. So I was having a conversation with some folks in another state, and I happened to reference their dyslexia handbook for an answer to a question one of them had. And one of them said, "Where did you find that?" I said, "Your dyslexia handbook." Well, where is that? So, I mean, there's a lot of information provided through these sorts of things, legislation and through districts. Your handbook is one of those as well, other pieces. But take a look at those if you get a chance and be familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about this before too, but that legislative session always happens during the school year.
Yeah.
Teachers cannot participate. And I know that there are like allowances for them to do so, but back to the issue of time, that would be a real,
it's more
real
work
sacrifice.
to miss school because we have to do subplans. It's more work.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And Lindsay, you're not encouraged to do it at all. It's not encouraged for teachers.
Oh,
and
no.
There's no setup. That's the thing about it to
We don't
me.
know
If we really
about it
wanted
usually,
teachers.
like we're not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you do know about it, because I have participated as a teacher, like legally, they have to give you the day off to go to Capitol Hill. But for me, it was 4 hours away. And I was a literacy coach when I did this. And it wasn't, hoorayed and supported in the way that maybe it could have been. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's definitely something to consider there. But I don't know what to do with it other than to be aware. I think your call is a good one, Donell. Be aware of the legislation. Yeah. Okay. Looking towards next year, what's something you want to do more of, even if it feels risky or hard to implement? And I'll lead with this one again, because I'm just going to be repetitive. And for me, it's going to be that class on teaching writing while I'm teaching writing at the same time to my students. I think that's going to be hard to implement. And I'm looking forward to being on the other side of it and learning what I have to learn, because I think it's going to be hard.
I need to do better with my vocabulary instruction. This isn't risky, but what makes it hard is the time involved. Our old program, I feel like the old ELA program we had, it was easier for me, more doable, because we had 5 to 8 vocabulary words for the week. Our program now introduces maybe 5 or 6 a day. So it's really hard for me to give opportunities for students to interact with the words throughout the week, because, as I said, it's timing. And so I really want to think through the best and most efficient ways to do that. There's things that I think I'm doing good, and I try to incorporate the words in our writing, but I can do better at it. And then there's things I'm not very good at, like continuing to interact with the words, except those words that we're using in our writing. So anyways, that's just something I want to explore and improve.
Yeah, very cool. Donell, how about you?
I think for me, I need to get re-energized. I do. I let myself get a bit beat up, and I need to get re-energized and refocused on the things that I know are important, to make sure that I continue being the best advocate. And listening to you talk about advocates and their importance, Lindsay, it's gotten me back into the mindset. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And you said it earlier too, Donell, find your people. We're your people. We'll help you. You don't get the traditional break that Lindsay and I get, even though we can say that I'm actually still teaching over the summer. Lindsay, you've got 1,010,000
I don't know if I have a break this summer. A break from teaching first graders. But
yeah. So again, teachers back to time. We don't really get a break, but it comes naturally in our school year. And I have the luxury of a redo every semester. Every 4 months, I get to refocus on something, which has been a change for me. Donell, you're in it all the time. So yeah, that's, it doesn't let up for you. That makes sense. Okay. Anything else forward facing for next year before we talk about summer? Okay, nothing else to wrap up. Okay, let's talk about summer. And I titled this section of our questions that I sent you, Summer Reset, which sounds so lovely, right? That sounds great. What are you, even though we're going to be busy this summer, what is something you're going to give yourself permission to completely step away from this summer? Just totally take a break.
I can't.
Is there something?
I don't know. Like, does that, I guess I'm going to say from teaching first graders. Like, I'm not doing any tutoring. I'm not, until August. So I'll say June and July, I don't have to do anything about teaching first graders. But once the beginning of August comes, I start thinking of my class. And actually that usually happens earlier, but we'll try. We'll try.
Okay, that's good and kind of forced on you, but that's good. You don't have students to teach. But you know what? I'm a hypocrite because I don't know how to answer this either.
Yeah, I guess like headspace. I'm going to try not to think about like that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Donell, what about you?
Yeah, no, I'm not stepping away from anything. I am going to be looking more at college students this summer. So that I'm having a little time and space to be able to examine the college experience for students with dyslexia and students who don't know they have dyslexia.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be looking more at that. So hopefully I'll have some interesting conversations to share.
Okay. So an important part of the summer should be rest, even though we won't get a ton of it. But what does that look like for you guys? What does rest look like for you?
Reading.
And are you any good at it? Because I'm guessing you're not.
Yeah, for me, it's reading what I want to read, not what I have to read. So that's fun for me. That'll be for me. And in fact, there's an individual named Stuart Brand. So you heard it here if you haven't heard his name before. And I had not heard his name before. But he was on a podcast, several podcasts, and it was Steve Jobs who was talking about him in a commencement address that he gave, apparently a famous little talk that he gave on Stuart Brand, this individual who thinks about... He thinks about, I was going to say, how do you sum up what Stuart Brand thinks about? But he called Stuart Brand Google before Google. That he said he was actually Google before Google.
Interesting.
And he had a book called, Whole Earth Catalog. I've ordered it. I'm going to spend some time with that this summer.
Oh, good. Okay, that sounds like a good rest activity. You'll have to tell us how it is. Lindsay.
I'm not sure I know what rest looks like. Besides sleeping in my bed at night. That is my rest.
Yeah.
I guess social media, but even that is not exactly restful because a lot of times I'm answering people's questions. I don't know. I love going on walks. I love exercising. So that's a rest in a way from what I am from, like my work and my teaching. So, yeah.
Well, I have been known to, I have a hard time, unless I'm in a movie theater, of just sitting down and watching something. I have to be doing something else. And the other day I was grading and felt like it was a light enough assignment that I could have the TV on. That was not the good choice. But I did, I exercised self-control, but I didn't watch the whole season. And I don't know if you guys have watched Love on the Spectrum. I smile the entire time I'm watching that show, like big fat smile the whole time. And that's when I realized, I haven't graded an assignment in 40 minutes. I need to turn this off. So as soon as I submit grades on Wednesday, I am going to find time to just sit. And it did get my attention enough that I didn't feel like I had to be doing something else. So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
But after I watch that, then I don't know what I'm going to do to rest. Probably not very much. So we've kind of talked about this, but what's one thing you want to learn or explore this summer that has nothing to do with literacy? I'm just going to say my answer will be the same. Love on the Spectrum.
Oh, okay. All right. So this might be surprising to our listeners, but I am a dancer. I grew up dancing and recently got back into salsa dancing. And so this summer, I'm actually going to go to it's called a salsa congress in Las Vegas.
Ooh.
This is like a salsa, like think of a teaching conference, but it's salsa dance. So it's like I'll have workshops on and classes on like technique and styling and different elements of dance. And I'm going to do that this summer for a few days.
Very cool.
My family will come with me. I will be going to the classes while they find fun stuff to do during the day. And then we'll go do stuff in the evenings. So that's kind of fun.
And if it's Las Vegas, they should be very near a pool because it will be hot in many ways.
Yes.
Salsa, get it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
very
definitely.
Cool. Yay, that's awesome. And just for our listeners to know something they don't need to know, but it was fun. Right as we started our episode, Lindsay just got a new pair of salsa shoes. And so she was telling us all about them. Yeah, you should show our listeners.
Oh, yeah, I was saying, because we started a little late and I was like, no, I'm glad because these just came in the mail and I was waiting for them. I wanted to try them on. I'm excited to use them tonight in my class. So,
okay, Donell, how about you?
Yes, I have some scheduled trips to see that grandbaby of mine, and we will do some reading together because I read to him FaceTime, and he's always amazed that I know the words to his books, but they're books I read to my kids over and over again. So he always looks over his shoulder and stares at me as I read the page and stares at me. So that'll be fun.
Well, we expect some text messages with video at some point about that. I do have a couple. Well, I have a wedding in the family coming up, which will be fun. And I think that and Love on the Spectrum. Have I already mentioned that? Okay. What about your summer reading list? Donell, you've already shared that with us a little bit. Do you have anything else on that list?
Yeah, so Stuart Brand, Whole Earth Catalog. I'm very much looking forward to that read. And then I do an annual Pride and Prejudice read. I can't help myself, but I do.
Is that always in the same time of the year?
About, yeah.
Oh, I love that book.
I love that book. Yeah.
I know. Oh, awesome. Okay, Lindsay, how about you?
So I just have like my book. I have a part of a book club, and so my book club we're going to read Theo of Golden. So I don't know if you've read that, but I haven't yet. So I'm going to read that, and then this summer there's going to be a book study on Rock Your Literacy Blocks. I'm going to participate in that, of course.
Great.
Like that's the book I wrote, but I will go back and reread. And
I was like, that's not on your summer reading list. That's on your summer written list.
Yeah. But I got to go back and read it and think of like when I'm going to present what I want to say. But yeah. So far only Theo of Golden is on my list.
I've heard mixed reviews about that. Initially, I was only hearing good things, and then so I'm curious.
Okay,
I might have to read that too. Yeah. Young-Suk Kim just is going to release the book I pre-ordered. It's coming out on May 12th. Integrating Reading and Writing.
Yeah, that's on my list too then because I'm waiting for it to come in the mail.
Yeah, May 12th.
No, I thought you said not with reading. No, but
well, not this question. This was anything on your list.
Okay.
Yeah. What's on your summer reading list? That and like a million other things, right? Oh, it's so many things. I keep ordering books that I don't have time to read. So there are probably so many that fall into that category that I've lost track, but that's what I'm looking forward to. So excited for that. Okay. We have had a great conversation. To be honest, I feel like this has been a very organic conversation in that I almost forgot we're recording a podcast. We've just been talking. So let's wrap this up by fill in the blank. Starting, we'll say September, even if your school year starts in August. By September, I want to feel
rejuvenated.
How would you finish this? That's a great word. Donell?
Let's just say re-energized.
You guys are good. That's very aspirational. I just want to feel prepared. So I'm going to aim for that. And those of you who are listening, if you have, I hope you've been reflecting along with us, and we'd love to hear about your year too. So always feel free to share that with us. And We hope you all feel energized by September. And whenever the next episode of Literacy Talks airs, we hope you will join us for that. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Literacy Talks.
Thanks for joining us today. Literacy Talks comes to you from Reading Horizons, where literacy momentum begins. Visit readinghorizons.com/literacy talks to access episodes and resources to support your journey in the science of reading.